Hello everyone, greetings from AR Summary Guidance. In this video, we are going to discuss the poem I Lost My Talk by Rita Ju. So here we'll be having a short introduction about the poem and the poet, stanza-wise summary with the mind map, which will connect to the summary and which will make you to simplify the essay. Also, the subtitle suggestions, which will help you to write your essay in a better way, and key points along with the study questions you can revise for your exam. Let's move on. Introduction. So, I Lost My Talk by Rita Jo is a poignant reflection on the impact of cultural assimilation on indigenous identity. So, the poem purely talks about how the indigenous people, they suffer due to the colonizers. The poet recounts her experience at a residential school where her native language and cultural expressions were taken away. So it is all about the poet's personal experience and from her childhood experience. And she was forced to adopt the dominant cultures, colonizers' language and ways of thinking. Despite this loss, she acknowledges her bicultural identity, native culture as well as the dominant culture, recognizing the power imbalance between the two cultures. Ultimately, she seeks to reclaim her native voice and extend a hand for mutual understanding, hoping to teach others about her true self and heritage. So that's all about the introduction. Let's move on to the stanza summary. I lost my talk, the talk you took away. When I was a little girl at Shubhanakde school. So this is what her residential school. Rita Jo reflects on how her native language and cultural identity were taken from her. The question how, her native language, where and how. She recalls being a little girl at the age of 12 at the residential school, Shubhanakde school in Nova Scotia, highlighting the setting where her talk was taken away. I lost my talk. She lost her talk where the place is the residential school. Two primary goals of the residential school system were to, number one is to remove and isolate children from the influence of their homes, families, traditions, and cultures. This is what the first primary goal of the residential school. Number two will be to assimilate them into the dominant culture, to force them to adopt the dominant culture by taking away their language and cultural identity. So that's all about the stanza one. Second stanza, it talks about the speaker discusses how she was forced. So first stanza talks about where and how. And this part talks about she was forced to change from her native identity and adopt to a new and more white identity, which was the dominant culture. You snatched it away. I speak like you, I think like you, I create like you, and the scrambled ballad about my world. It also shows how much she was forced to change because of her use of the words think, speak, and create. The scrambled ballad, it represents the confusion and loss of her native words and cultural expressions. It's not lost, but it has been buried by the residential school system. Let's move on to the third stanza. Two ways I talk, both ways I say. Your way is more powerful. The speaker acknowledges her ability to speak in both her native and the dominant culture's language. So here the two languages which connects with two cultures, native culture and the dominant culture. She recognizes that the dominant culture's way of speaking holds more power. Fourth stanza. So gently I offer my hand and ask, let me find my talk so I can teach you about me. The speaker seeks to reclaim her lost language and identity, her heritage, everything, tradition. She extends a hand in a gesture of peace, wanting to share her culture and identity with others. not only adopting the dominant culture, but she was asking, reclaiming her lost language and identity to extend her hand in a gesture of peace. She is asking for the opportunity to reclaim her culture, identity, and language so that the settler and indigenous relationship can be based on harmony, on justice, and on reconciliation, rather than the dominant and suppressive, or the oppressed and marginalized. But when they get a chance to express their own, for sharing their own culture, indigenous people, they could get the settler and the indigenous relationship will be a better one. They can be based on harmony, on justice, and on reconciliation. That's all about the poem. Let's move on to the mind map. Here, the mind map clearly points out that the gradual improvisation and the gradual process towards the emotion of the poet, the introduction of the poet's loss, and how do she adopt the dominant culture, and what sort of a confusion she had, and along with the displacement, cultural expression, and how she lost her language and identity, bicultural existence and power imbalance, which connects the dual identity, and the call for reclamation, which means desire for mutual understanding between the settlers and the indigenous people. Key points, which will make you to remember the entire essay. These are the important points you have to include in your essay. Here goes the study questions. You can revise the questions, and you can practice these questions, which will help you to write your exams. That's all about this poem. I hope this video is useful to you, and we'll be meeting you shortly with the other part of the literature topics. Thank you all.